Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about how to describe processes. This is one of the possible tasks that you can receive in academic writing task 1. Okay, so here's an example of what an IELTS writing task 1 can look like. This is a process. It says the pictures below show how tomato ketchup is made. And then there is the standard task, summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features. Usually they also say, and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, and we can see that there are 15 stages. So today we're going to learn how to describe such processes. So stay with me. So in academic writing task 1, you can be asked to describe how something is made, produced, or manufactured. In this case, it will be man-made or artificial process. And you can mention this, by the way, in your introduction. Or you can be asked to describe how something happens in nature. So that will be a natural process. For example, you can be asked to describe how photosynthesis works, or how mushrooms grow, or how concrete is made, how chocolate is produced, and so on. There are some things that we need to know. So when we describe stages, we need to know the linking words, the sequencers, they're called, to say, well, this is the first, the initial stage, and then there is the next, the following, the subsequent stage. Then we can find, we can demonstrate, we can describe the final stage and so on, right? We also need to show a range of grammar structures and not just present simple, something is done, present simple passive. Okay, and well, some vocabulary also related to the topic. Right. Now, when you look at the task, some general tips that I can give you: just study each stage of the process to figure out what is happening. So there may be one or two unfamiliar words. Then maybe a definition will be given below the diagram, or it might be just clear from the picture. So you also need to understand where the process starts and where it finishes. Okay, this will be important for your overview, which we will discuss in a second. Now, you also need to keep the tone quite formal, neutral or formal, so it shouldn't be informal. This is the same for all academic writing and for all academic writing task 1 in particular. Then you need to use passive voice constructions, and not just a range of passive constructions. We will revise these constructions today, so just in a few minutes. So please keep watching. Now, you need to use a variety of sequencing linkers. And for every stage of the process, you can see that, for example, in this task, there are 15 stages, which means that you need to be able to say next. Or initially, tomatoes are picked or plucked and placed into a basket. But then you say next, or after this, or at the next stage, in the following step, and so on. So you need to be able to say next in almost 15 different types, well, 14 or 13 ways. Which means you need to have a whole range of such linking devices. All right. And so sometimes you also need to ask yourself, is the process cyclic or linear? Are there any loops or repeating stages? If there are, you need to mention this. And are there any things happening at the same time, simultaneously? In our process today, there will be no no stages that are simultaneous, but sometimes this might happen. Okay, so like any writing task 1, a process description consists of an introduction, an overview, and detailed paragraphs. It is possible that you will have a summary at the end, but that's only for really high band scores. And well, if you just need a 7, it's not really necessary to have a summary, but overview is essential. Okay, now introduction. This is just a paraphrase of the task. So the task says, the pictures below show how tomato ketchup is made. Okay, and we need to paraphrase this um, by using our own words. Now, here are some phrases that you can use for introductions. Well, when there is the process, you can paraphrase it as the given information or the provided images. Then if the process shows, you can say represents, illustrates, or depicts, shows or reveals maybe. And there are some sample phrases that can be used, like the pictures illustrate how something is made, the diagram highlights how something is produced, the pictures show the steps involved in doing something, the illustration demonstrates, or the diagram illustrates, or, well, this is my favorite. You can say the given information depicts the stages required to produce ketchup. And so your introduction is ready. The given information depicts the stages required to do something, to produce ketchup. Okay, so this is the introduction. Just paraphrase the task. In the commentaries to this video, what you can do is just write your own version of this introduction. So the pictures below show how tomato ketchup is made. Okay. Then after this, we need to write the overview. Well, overview can also be written at the end of your task one, but I recommend to include it in the very beginning after the introduction, just because you might forget to write it, and if you do, it seriously influences your task achievement score. So you can just get 5 for task achievement if you forget to write the overview if your overview is not clear. Okay, so overview is essential. For processes, overview is very easy. So you can say something like overall, and then it can be seen that. But if your language is really high, you can, if your language level is really high, you don't even need to say this. It can be seen that. You can just use your language and describe it in your own words. So it can be seen that the process consists of 15 stages. So we can see that there are 15 stages, beginning with, and then you mentioned the first stage and the last stage. Okay, so overall it can be seen that the process consists of 15 different stages, beginning with. Now, if you can paraphrase the stage, you just paraphrase it and you say with plucking tomatoes and placing them into a basket, But if you cannot, you just say it begins with picking tomatoes and putting them in a basket. So if you can't paraphrase, just copy the words from the diagram, and it's okay. There is nothing you can do. Just copy it. Now, so beginning with plucking tomatoes, placing them into a basket, and ending with. Now here you can see that you can eat ketchup with, or you can eat hamburger and fries with ketchup. So and consuming it with, you can paraphrase hamburger. You can say it like burger with burgers and French fries, something like this. Okay. Now, so what can you say for your overview? So in your overview, you need to use a linking word so that it shows that this is just a summary. You can say overall, or you can say in general, and then you say it can be seen that, or you can use this wonderful expression, a cursory glance at the diagram reveals that, or you can say it becomes immediately apparent that, it is glaringly obvious that, it is blindingly obvious that, it is patently obvious that, it is crystal clear, it is abundantly clear that, it is conspicuous that, which means it is noticeable that, and then you can say the process, or the given process, the process in question, the process under consideration, but probably the best one is the process being considered, because this is passive participle. You probably will not use passive participle anywhere else in your writing task one, so use it here. And it will sound like this. Overall, a cursory glance at the diagram reveals that the process being considered, and you can say consists of, and then you say like 15 main stages, or just or you could say comprises 15 main stages. So if you say comprises, you don't need of. So in passive, it would be, it is comprised of 15 different, 15 main stages. But if it's active, there is no of. So some students make a mistake here. Of is not necessary. And then you say beginning with, so doing something, or you can use a noun. But if you use a gerund, like doing something, don't use articles there. So beginning with picking tomatoes and placing them into a basket, and ending with eating or consuming ketchup with burger and French fries, something like this. All right. So basically, you have the structure. Overall, these expressions, technically speaking, they are not necessary. And if your language is just really, if your language level is really high, you don't have to use them. You can demonstrate your language by using something else, and that's even more preferable. But if you cannot, just use some collocations, like it is glaringly obvious, a cursory glance at the diagram reveals that. Well, you can use them, right? So now your overview is ready, and then we need to write, we need to describe every stage, every single stage. You can describe 2 or 3 stages in one sentence. You don't have to write a separate sentence for each stage, but you need to describe every stage, beginning with the first one. Some people think that if you have described the first stage and the last stage here, you don't need to include it. You do need to include it in your detailed paragraph. So one thing that you need to connect, like for coherence and cohesion, you need to connect your stages. You need to use some special linking words to introduce the first stage, to introduce the next stage, the last stage, and so on, the stage before the last. So when it's the first stage, maybe just one linking word will be enough. For example, initially, that's quite an advanced one. Or you can say to commence with, that's a synonym for to begin with. If you forget them, you can just say firstly and move on. So the first step is, the first stage is, first of all, initially, first and foremost, to begin with, to commence with at the initial stage. So you can say, like if you look at the, yes, if you look at this process, you can say initially tomatoes are picked and placed into a basket. Okay, and then we need to say next more than 10 times. So what can we say? What can we say if we need to introduce 14 more stages? So here's what you can say. You can say firstly, secondly, thirdly, fourthly, but you need to do this only if you have very many stages. So just probably it's too simple. What you can also say is like next, after that. What I marked in bold is a little bit more advanced than the rest. So I would recommend you to use these words and to memorize them if possible. In my opinion, they are more preferable. Okay, so then subsequently, moving further, henceforth, then you can also say in the next step, in the following step, in the subsequent step. Then at the next stage, at the following stage, at the subsequent stage, right? And then you say, then, hereafter, or afterwards. But these words are not normally used in the beginning of the sentence, because you will say something like, it is afterwards, like it is afterwards placed into a container, but rather than afterwards in the beginning of the sentence. Okay. So you can also use some special construction. So after the picking stage, or once the tomatoes have been picked, or this is followed by putting tomatoes into a container, you can say having been checked for quality, having been picked, or the process continues with 2 steps involving doing something and doing something. So here you can see that you can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. you can describe around 20 stages by using this language that I provide, that I'm sharing with you. Sometimes when we describe a process, we need to describe different stages happening at the same time. And in this case, we need to use expressions like at this point, meanwhile, in the meantime, or simultaneously. Okay. Then every stage has the last stage and the stage before the last. So for the stage before the last, there is a really good, a really advanced word. Don't forget to use it. And this word is penultimate. So penultimate means the stage before the last. It's a really bookish, advanced academic word. And if you use it, well, that will be a small decoration for your writing. So at the penultimate stage, something happens. So prior to the last stage, at the last stage but one, but I really recommend to say at the penultimate stage. All right. And then for the final stage, you can say finally, at the final stage, and eventually. Okay, we'll talk about grammar in a second, but we also, I'll just say a few words about the summary. Overview is essential. So you really need to use the overview. Now, the summary, if you can find one more trend or general feature for your writing task one, it's not only about processes, but about everything. You can also include it. Why? Well, because of three reasons. I heard this from an IELTS writing examiner, so I will share this with you also. So the first reason is that you will probably, it's reasonable to introduce a summary if your level, if your language level is really high. And if it is really high, it means that in your summary, you will use some more words which you haven't used before, some keywords, topical keywords, and you'll paraphrase them in a different way. You'll demonstrate a wider lexical resource. Then secondly, possibly you will use some constructions which you haven't used in the main body of your writing and in your introduction overview as well. So your grammatical range will increase a little bit also. And finally, it will be abundantly clear that you provide the examiner with a clear overview. So you have the overview and you have the summary. It means that, well, there is no way to say that you don't have a clear overview. It's so clear that you have the overview, you have the summary, and everywhere you provide some general features. Okay, well, these are three reasons. Again, summary is not necessary for everyone. It's only for those who are aiming at band 8 or higher in writing. So, and if your language is really high. Okay, so if you do include a summary, then you can say in summary, or to summarize, to sum up. Actually, official Cambridge IELTS course books, they include to sum up, but there is an opinion, and your examiner might share the same opinion, that to sum up is a phrasal verb. It's too spoken for academic style. So probably just don't include to sum up, say to summarize, right? Instead of a phrasal verb, use a usual verb. And your summary can sound like this. So to summarize, it becomes glaringly obvious that the process of tomato ketchup production is quite a straightforward one, much as, which means although, it calls for some manual precision on the manufacturer's part. So you only need to include it if it's really really clear from the process itself. Or another way to write a summary, it's from a Cambridge course book, official IELTS Cambridge course book called Mindset for IELTS. This completes the process of making traditional wooden footwear or clogs by hand. So this is how they make a summary. So this completes the process of producing something. So you might also include it, but again, it's not necessary. Now, what grammar constructions can we use? The easiest way, of course, is to just use present simple passive. But we need a high score in grammatical range and accuracy. So it means we need to include some complex sentences. You can even include inversion. I'll show you how. And just advanced passive constructions. So, well, first of all, passive constructions. Besides present simple passive, like 4 of the sticks are then tied together, you can also use present perfect passive. For example, once this has been done, something else is done. Okay. You can also use a passive infinitive. For example, with an adjective, something is ready to be done. The lantern is ready to be decorated. Okay. Then you also need to include modal verb plus passive infinitive. The paper has to be glued to the frame. So something has to be done, can be done, should be done, ought to be done. Okay. It can also be a passive participle, like sandpaper is used to smooth down the wood on both the interior and the exterior of the clog to trim away the excess of material left by the previous stage. Now, you can also use passive gerund after being done, while being done. Perfect passive participle, having been done. So having been collected, the tomatoes are then sent to a factory, something like this, or having done something, but then it should be active after this. Having done something, the workers do something, right? Well, possibly, and I saw this in examples from official Cambridge books. You can also use imperative mood, but just use it once. Don't use it too often. Take brightly colored tissue paper, cut out 8 triangles, fold and cut paper, decorate the base of the lantern. So you're like giving an instruction how to do this, but don't use it too much, just once. And it probably this construction is not advanced. You can just use advanced passive constructions. Now, you also need to use complex sentences. So when you describe a process, you can use relative clauses like that which. So once the trees are felled, they are sawn into logs, which are debarked and cut into rough rectangular blocks. Okay, then you probably will find a way to use a clause of concession with while, whilst, whereas, although, or much as. The final task for the clog maker is to decorate the completed wooden shoe using various different colors, although this is an optional stage. Okay, then you might want to use clauses of time, of course, because once something has been done, after something has been done, before, as soon as something is done. So, and then there is another, the main clause. So, for example, once spices, namely sugar, vinegar, and salt, have been added, the obtained mixture is boiled and then left for a 2-hour span to settle. All right. Then these can be clauses of place. So where, for example, subsequently tomatoes are loaded onto lorries and delivered to a factory where they are pulped. And finally, you can use inversion. So you can say, for example, only after that is something done. Okay, so you take one stage and then you say, only after that are the bottles delivered to sales outlets. Okay, so for example, there is quality control here. Here we have, like, to be really natural to do this here. So there is quality control, and only after that are the bottles packed into boxes and sent to sales outlets. Because without quality control, you cannot just send them to sales outlets, right? So that would be really nice to use inversion here. It's really natural, and that will increase your score in grammatical range and accuracy. Okay, right. Now, vocabulary. So, for example, if you want to talk about ketchup, okay, where's that? So here are some words that you can use to talk about ketchup. So you can paraphrase ketchup as tomato sauce or red sauce. Or then when you pick tomatoes, they are ripe, mellow, or mature. Then to pick, the synonym for to pick, that's to pluck. To sort or to sort out, that's a word. So chosen, selected, or sorted tomatoes. Now here, this thing is called stalk, seeds, and skin. So this skin can also be called peel. So you can paraphrase it as peel. It's also possible. Okay. Then pulping. This is the process when skin, seeds, and what else was it? When skin, seeds, and stalk are taken away, it's called pulping. It's a special term. It's not mentioned there, but if you do mention it, that's an advantage. Then when something is mixed and so on, you can call this not only about ketchup, but about many different processes. You can call this resulting mixture, obtained mixture, or resultant mixture. Now, one more stage here. It is left for 2 hours, and then when something is left for some period of time, for 2 hours, for example, you can also say to settle, to be set, or to let something stand. Okay, so when you want to mention quality control, you can say that's quality assurance, to pass or to undergo the quality control, or to be examined for quality. And there's dressing for salad, or flavoring, condiment, and seasoning. So that's what this is how you can use ketchup, or you can use it to dress a salad, or to dress vegetables, and so on. Okay, so we can see there are 15 stages. So let's just have a look. So first there is picking tomatoes and putting them into a basket. Then they are sorted, and good and bad, or you can say unwanted tomatoes, are taken away. Then good tomatoes are sent to a factory. And stalk, seeds, and skin are removed, and they are placed into a container. Then these tomatoes are crushed. After this, some spices like sugar, vinegar, and salt are added. This resultant mixture is boiled and left for 2 hours. Then the ketchup is poured into bottles. The bottles are labeled. They undergo quality control. They are packed into boxes. They are delivered to supermarkets, or you can call them sales outlets. And then finally, you can use it with hamburger and fries. Okay, so now let me share my example of how I would describe this process at an exam. So the provided images illustrate the steps involved in the process of tomato ketchup production. Overall, a cursory glance at the diagram reveals that the process being considered comprises 15 stages, beginning with collecting tomatoes and ending with serving ketchup with hamburger and fries. Initially, ripe tomatoes are plucked and put in a basket. Next, the freshly picked tomatoes are sorted into suitable and unsuitable ones. Upon inspection, damaged, spoiled, or unwanted tomatoes are sorted out manually. At the subsequent stage, the selected vegetables are transported to the factory where they are pulped, i.e., stalk, seeds, and peel are removed. Following the removal process, the remaining tomato pulp is placed into a special container where it is afterwards crushed, after which smoother consistency tends to be achieved. Once spices, namely sugar, vinegar, and salt, have been added, the obtained mixture is boiled and then left for a 2-hour span to settle. Moving further, the resulting substance is poured into bottles, with these containers being properly labeled. Having been labeled, the ketchup bottles are subjected to the scrutiny of quality assurance. Henceforth, the sorted bottles are packed into boxes, and at the penultimate stage, they are loaded onto lorries, which deliver them to sales outlets. Finally, or you can say eventually, ketchup can be employed as an additive flavoring for snacks such as hamburger and French fries. All right, so this is how you describe a process in academic writing task 1. I hope you found this video useful. So please put your likes, put your thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hope to see you in the next video.